Okay, let's go ahead and get ourselves started again. We've been looking at the issue of rendering and materials and how we associate materials with different elements in our model. And we want to move ahead to how you actually think about not only just assigning materials to elements, but actually creating new materials. So changing the materials to have a different appearance, or even importing your own custom appearances and using those so you can get exactly the effect you want on your model elements. So to do that, let's go ahead and start out by just kind of creating a nice interior view. I'm going to create a camera view here on the inside of my living room. I'll just pull this way so I can sort of see those furniture elements. Take a look at what we have available. Then to see the material appearances, let's switch over to a realistic view. That'll actually show the materials that are currently assigned there. Okay, so super. So you can see there are already some materials assigned here. We have some sort of material on this wooden wall, on the interior wall. We have this wooden material on this accent wall over here, as well as on the couch. So some of these are already assigned. Let's go ahead and start making some changes and see how that'll actually affect our model. So for example, on this wall over here, this little bit of an accent wall, if you want to change the material properties of that, we can do it a couple different ways. We can open the wall, look at its structure, and see that the material is defined here. And then we can click the little dot, dot, dot to get at the material that way. But another way I'll show you, just because I want you to understand there's a lot of ways to get to these, is under the Manage tab, you can look at your materials there. So it'll take you to the same dialog. It doesn't really matter which way you go, but, oh, what was that called? It was like dark wall or something like that. Wood dark. There it is. Now you can see that this is currently defined to have an appearance. Let's see, let it bring it up. It's defined in sort of an interesting way. This is actually defined by a pattern that has a base color and then a noise pattern that a bump to it. So this is kind of a little bit special about the way it's defined. This is one of the things that came out of the Revit material library. Okay, but we can go through and kind of create things in other ways too. So we can kind of stick with this existing material. Notice it has a base color, and that base color is being used over here in the graphics. It's using the render appearance, kind of pulling that across. Okay, but if, for example, if we want to change wood panel dark, that material wood panel dark to mean something else, what we can do is actually just change this asset, change this visual asset to something else. Now, we should think about this. If we change that asset definition for wood panel dark, anything in the entire model which is associated with wood panel dark will pick up that same new appearance. So always think about whether you want to change it universally, or if you want to make a change just to this one specific panel, you might want to create a new material. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. But let us start by just changing this asset. It'll change it everywhere that this is used. So for example, I can replace this asset and go for another place in the library. Let's see what we can find in our wooden panels that might be interesting. I'll type wood in here. And we have bamboo, we have ash, we have cork, we have cherry, birch. Let's go for birch. We'll go for something that's much lighter in appearance. Okay, we can double click to basically bring that in. Notice that it's updating the appearance over here. If we come over, you'll notice that the render appearance is being used as part of the graphics. So in a shaded view, it'll also look a little bit lighter. We'll say, okay, now it probably makes sense to actually change that to be wood panel birch or something like that. So maybe I'll do that, just so we don't get confused by names that are a little bit different. We'll say, okay. Okay, now you'll see that birch is being used on this. It's also being used on that bookcase. So that bookcase was also using wood panel dark. So that's an example of where you might want to just be a little bit careful about how you assign the materials and maybe create a new material. So for example, if I wanted a different material over here on this panel wall versus over here, let's take a look at how we do that. I can, again, manage it through the materials and create it there. I'm going to be a little bit tricky here, though. I'm going to just do it through this. If I edit the wall definition and change the material here, I'll create a new material and it'll actually associate it with that wall definition at the same time. So I'm just kind of doing a little shortcut to save myself a step here. Let me duplicate that existing material. And I'm just going to call it accent wall, since I just want to use it on the accent wall. Super. Now it still has the same visual appearance. Okay, it's still associated with that. So let's go through and change it to a different asset. And I'll change it to, I think I have kind of a nice, let's see if I have it in there. There we go, pegboard. Let's go ahead and apply that. It has a visual appearance there. Again, it'll kind of use the base color in shaded views. Okay, now this is associated with a different material. You see, so this changed a little bit differently. It's interesting, it's sort of transparent too. That's kind of an interesting material. Okay, but it's different now than the bookcases, and you can, again, change these materials to really be whatever you like. Now, you can continue just to sort of change things around by switching to different assets that are already in the library. You could even bring in your own material, and that gives you the ability to do an awful lot of very interesting customization. So let's talk about how you can do that. If you want to create a new appearance and use your own material, let's do something like this. Oh, again, I'll choose that wall and get to the materials. But let me go through and actually create a brand new material that we might want to use. And what I'll need is just some sort of an image of the material, something that I might have gotten from the web or from a photograph. If it's from a photograph, it has to be, very, I'll call it dead on. So it doesn't have a whole lot of perspective to it, because as it tries to tile the image across the surface, you don't want to see the seams or see any sort of strange perspective effects. But I'm going to create just a brand new material. Okay, it's my new default material. Let me rename it. How about this? I'm going to say slate wall panels. Okay, so I have some sort of idea of a slate image I might want to use as an accent in that room. What I'll do is go over here to the appearance. And right now there's not a whole lot selected. It's just kind of the default gray. If I'd like to associate that with an image, what I can do is click here and then go to my library. And we've actually put some images out there in the 120 shared library for you. So you can use any of these, or again, ones you find on the web. Let me see what I have in there. I think I do have some slates. Where are we? There's some slates. Some different colors that I might want to use in there. Oh, I'll go for this sort of more grayish pattern. Okay, so it has an image right now. I can go through and even sort of apply that more to, like a wall, just so you can sort of see what it looks like a little bit better. Although it's very small, it's hard to see. Let's go ahead and edit that a little bit though too, so you can sort of understand it and kind of adjust it a little bit. The image has to be mapped to a certain size, and by default, it's just sort of mapping that to 1 foot by 1 foot. Now the image I brought in is actually 4 tiles wide by 4 tiles tall, so I really want it to be 4 by 4. So I need to just do a little bit of a change to that just to help us understand the scale. Okay, let's try, I'm very bad at this in terms of remembering what it likes. Didn't like that. Let's try 0.48. Let's try 4. That's 4 inches. Okay, we're getting closer. 48. Yeah, finally likes that. Wants us to put in the inches without actually going through and putting the 0 in front of it. Okay, it's currently linked so that they're kind of staying proportional. So if I want those to be 1 by 1 tiles, I could do that. Let me say done. If I want to use that same gray appearance, I can. Kind of as a silvery gray. Say okay. Okay, all the way back out. Okay again. So now you see I have my slate tiles there, and that looks pretty good. Now, if you want to sort of change things, this is where you get very clever with your materials images, because 12 by 12 is okay, but let's say you want 12 by 36, or you want 18 by 36, or something like that. You have another dimension you'd like to use. That's okay. You don't need to find another image. What you can do is just edit that material in the appearance. And if you're clever about this, let's edit that image. You can just rescale these. So if these were 18 by 36, 4 of them tall would be what? Oh, I always have to remember, like 6 feet tall. Let me unlock that. I'll say that's going to be 6 feet, which is 72. In the other direction right now, okay, if there were 36 and there were 4 of them, so 4 times 36, and I'm so bad about doing math on the fly. So 120 and the 24, so 144. Let's try that. Oops. Of course, it helps if you type right. Looks like I'm a little bit backwards. I'm sort of going tall that way. Let's go to 144 by 72. Okay, again, just depends on which effect you want. Say okay. Okay, now I have these horizontal tiles instead. So go ahead and use that creatively. Don't be feeling like you're limited by the materials that are available just within the standard Autodesk library. Feel free to go ahead and create your own. So if you find some interesting pattern you want to put on the floor here, some new kind of carpet or something like that, if you find something interesting you want to put on the walls, again, bring those images in so you can apply them and use them very creatively for what you want.